I think it'll come when Iran feels as though they have created grounds for necessary deterrence. Okay, so I don't even know what their victory condition looks like for them. But any kind of situation where America doesn't actually achieve, or Israel actually achieves their goals of completely creating a failed state right now.
Breaking overnight, striking the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, Iraq. Fire seen rising from the compound. After the strike, people seen clearing debris from a structure on the roof. This comes 2 weeks after the war on Iran began. Overnight, the U.S. launching on the vital oil hub, Khadik Island. President Trump posting these videos online after saying the bombing raid totally obliterated every military target. The island, located in the Persian Gulf, processes 90% of Iran's oil exports, and it's around 300 miles away from the Strait of Hormuz. Trump warning in his post that the operation did not target the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. The late night coming after a day of escalating U.S.-Israeli strikes. In Tehran, dramatic new videos showing...
If a CRAM was really lost in the embassy strike, does a carrier being hit moment and changes geopolitical calculations? I mean, that's what people are saying, but America's trying to say that it's just the helicopter landing pad that was blown up. And that's not just a CRAM, that's a CRAM being destroyed on top of American soil. Semaphore says Israel's running out of interceptors and are critically low. Israel has informed the U.S. it's running critically low on ballistic interceptors as the conflict with Iran continues, U.S. official told Semaphore. A U.S. official said Washington had been aware of Israel's limited interceptor capacity for months, adding, "It's something we expected and anticipated." The official stressed that the U.S. military is not facing a similar shortage of interceptors. Maybe the calculation changes for Israel. By the way, understand something. This is not something you can make up for with money. Okay? You need materials. Like, remember when America had to dive into the South Korean stockpile when Russia was diving into the North Korean stockpile of artillery shells? Because you can't just make up for the materials that are necessary to build the stockpile. Okay? Money doesn't automatically, magically turn cash into... Tamir interceptors need to be built. At that point, it's like Israel becomes the major villain of the planet alongside the United States of America by deploying it. Or they have to calculate. They have to recalculate what their cost-benefit analysis is. Perhaps they don't get to destroy Iranian sovereignty after all, especially because maybe their sovereignty might be destroyed. You're looking at a very different analysis if Israeli interceptors are gone because they just don't have Tamir interceptor and America can't make up for that need in time. All of a sudden, that means the entirety of the Hezbollah stockpile of munitions are hitting targets inside of Israel. Okay? The Iranian ballistic are hitting targets inside of Israel. That's a very different ball game. It's not a video game. You can't just like convert currency into Tamir interceptors magically and then your stockpile's replenished. It doesn't work that way. You have to build them. There's time. There's a lot of time it takes to build those shits. A lot of cost to it too. This is why Israel is beelining the Lebanon invasion, which is a dangerous mistake. In my opinion, that is also a dangerous miscalculation by Israel. Because they're so predisposed. The reason why they're doing that is partially because of this. Because Hezbollah can punish the out of the entirety of Israel if Israel doesn't have Tamir interceptors. The Iron Dome. Because Israel's defense, Israel's like anti-ballistic defense is not the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome is for smaller that Hezbollah can launch with ease, like rocket launchers, things of that nature. If they run out of that, all of a sudden, the Iron Dome is no longer. Hezbollah can punish the out of regular Israeli society and change the calculation for Israeli society overnight. By the way, I know the conversation has primarily been about tactical side of things, but Harana, the org that reports on human rights violations in Iran primarily by the regime, has estimated that 12,098 civilians have died. Yeah, that's bullshit. The number is actually over 2,000. Harana is, at the end of the day, still an American-backed institution, and they're greatly underestimating the civilian casualty. Even American estimates are higher than that now. American estimates have put the number at, I believe it's close to 2,000 now. I'm worried they will just renegotiate a fake deal and develop laser ballistic defense interceptors and attack Iran again. Yeah, okay. Any kind of negotiation that leads to any kind of ceasefire for an extended period of time, at least enough time for Israel to shore up its defenses, is going to be a resounding victory for Iran. You understand that, right? That's the future you should be looking towards right now. It's as I said from the start, that's the best possible outcome here in this scenario. Because what do you think happens in peacetime? You think Iran is just going to sit around and not beef up their offensive striking capabilities, their defensive striking capabilities, immediately rush in IRGC military commanders to China to get trained on Chinese weapon systems, produce instantly? The day after in Iran, if the Iranian government remains intact and Iran doesn't get pieced up, balkanized at the behest of Israel through like ethnic conflict or whatever they're trying to do, which by the way won't come when Israel wants it, won't come when America wants it. I think it'll come when Iran feels as though they have created grounds for necessary deterrence. Okay, so I don't even know what their victory condition looks like for them. But any kind of situation where America doesn't actually achieve, or Israel actually achieves their goals of completely creating a failed state right now, is going to be devastating for America's force projection capabilities that have now diminished, and for Israel's ambitions here. Pahlavi calls on his sleeper cells to activate against the IRGC. Good luck to him. Yes, but Iran inches once again closer to bankruptcy and civil unrest intensifies. Yeah, that's why I think they're trying to engage in maximum deterrence right now. Part of that is a withdrawal of American military and Israeli assets from the region. And part of that is going to be ease of sanctions. Iran will also obviously offer an olive branch to the American side here because they understand that like America has to look like they're winning here, winning something here as well. They will definitely demand reparations, which is their right to do so, for the record. That's fair. My point was that even using the most conservative estimates, the civilian bloodshed has already superseded October 7, but the West is completely averse to the lives of Iranian civilians unless it's to cynically pursue a foreign policy interest regime change. Of course. Absolutely. And any kind of peace and stability in Iran will harden the regime's position and will cause them most likely to take a more hardline approach. I think they get...
The moment an explosion rocked the capital city during an Al-Quds Day rally in solidarity with Palestinians. An interview with a demonstrator interrupted as the blast hit. Screams heard throughout the street. Plumes of smoke rising from a nearby building. Top Iranian officials, including Iran's president, who's been targeted by U.S. and Israeli strikes, seen walking in the crowd. The U.S. also... This
was crazy, by the way, because Americans were like, oh, dude, these guys are rats. They're hiding in tunnels. They're hiding in tunnels. And then they straight up went out in public amongst the masses and walked. That's a show of force. Twofold. One, it's propaganda, of course, before people say it's, anything but propaganda. The propaganda is to say, look, we're not afraid of our people. That's number one, in the way that you claim we are. Number two, it's to also say that we're not afraid of America. I've never seen someone MAGA before. Yeah. Oh, come on now. They know Israel can't kill people like that. Really? Israel. Our Israel, the Israel that we know. The Israel that we know shies away from wanton murder of civilians. Are we talking about the same? Do you know a different Israel than I do? Because they've been bombing hospitals. They were bombing hospitals in Lebanon not that long ago. Yesterday they were bombing a Lebanese hospital. Not my Israel, he said. Guy who's been in a fucking coma and only woke up just now.
Announcing a $10 million reward for information on the whereabouts of Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, and other top Iranian officials, some who were seen at that demonstration. And this morning, new images obtained by Con 11 showing one of the damaged refueling planes involved in...
Guy came in hot. He's like Jeffrey Epstein, the New York financier, the Playboy. Is that who we're talking about?
That deadly crash in western Iraq, killing all 6 Americans on board. While they have not yet been identified, at least 3 were Ohioans deployed with the Ohio Air National Guard's 121st Air Refueling Wing, according to the state's governor. An urgent investigation underway. So far, the Pentagon says the crash was not due to hostile or friendly fire.
War is hell. War is chaos.
Dude, oh God. Oh, it's always, his statements on this stuff is always womp womp. Like, he literally, war, this sucks, you know? It's just how it is, guys.
And as we saw with the tragic crash of our KC-135 tanker, bad things can happen. American heroes, all of them.
At least 13 American service members are known to have died participating in this operation so far. And leaders in the region and across the globe now renewing their calls for an immediate end to this war. Gio.
All right, so many looking at that. Marcus Moore, thank you for your reporting there from Qatar.
But we begin with this morning's top story, the escalating war in Iran. 2 weeks after it first began, President Trump says the U.S. military conducted strikes on Karg Island. That's a vital oil hub in the region. Now, in a Truth Social post, the president said the strikes targeted military sites on the island and warned Iran's oil infrastructure could be next if the Iranian blockade of the Strait of Hormuz continues.
And the cost of the war is being felt here at home. Benchmark crude oil prices rose again.
You want to know the worst possible outcome for 2028? Tucker Carlson runs on an anti-Israel platform in 2028, and the Democrats put forward a pro-liberal Zionist, pro-defending America's military might candidate. Tucker Carlson wins by Ronald Reagan numbers, not only by winning over the MAGA crowd, which he has complete control over, in my opinion, but also on top of that, a lot of independents and maybe even some liberals. The Democratic Party is done. The next wave of fascism is here. Like, the more accelerated version of fascism is here. He actually does, unironically, put the mass deportations regime in place. That's what I'm afraid of.
He says he's running against me for president. I almost want to run for president just to debate Ted Cruz, because I think it would go about the way it went last time. And for my part, I deeply enjoyed it, which is why I've never tweeted about it. For Ted Cruz.
Tucker Carlson versus Gavin Newsom is unlimited Tucker Carlson victory, by the way. Like, I'm letting you know right now, everyone's gonna be like, but what about trans people? Okay, they're gonna be like, but Gavin Newsom is like pro-gay. Gavin Newsom will signal that he's like also in favor of, you know, limiting the pro-trans sentiment from his side because he wants to appeal to the mythical moderate center. Oof. Tucker Carlson's like, you're Israel first. You're an attack dog. You're a lapdog for Israel. I can't even tell what your positions are. One day you say Israel's an apartheid. You get a boss call from all of the Israel lobbyists. And next day you come out and you say, actually, Israel's not an apartheid. Americans need someone who actually can stand on moral principles. And as a Christian, I think genocide is unconscionable. What's going on? You see, Tucker, you're being quite anti-Semitic. No, I love Jews. I love Jews. I can't stand what Israel has done to my Jewish friends. What's going on? Ronald Reagan victory condition, okay? Spoiler alert. Gavin Newsom doesn't win that battle. Tucker Carlson wins that battle.
Everybody knows the only reason we're having this war is because Israel wants it. This is their last chance, they believe. This presidency is the last presidency where they're going to have unequivocal bipartisan support.
This is why I've been trying to urge Democrats, both behind closed doors and publicly, to take a stronger stance against Israel. Okay? You cannot have a guy like Tucker Carlson lead the conversation on Israel. The Democrats, as a national party, have to universally oppose Israel. If you don't do that, a guy like Tucker Carlson, who has been leading the conversation for normies on the issue of Israel, will come out and destroy you. You can't play catch up by the time the election comes around where you're like, oh, well, we are we also want to do defensive weapons to Israel, but no offensive weapons. No, you'll fucking lose. You'll lose. 100%. Whoever is first to market with a convincing and earnest anti-Israel position will win. It does not matter how much AIPAC is spending right now. Even Nita Allam is a great example of this. A short-lived campaign that came out of nowhere, okay, was almost capable of taking out a multiple-term incumbent, Valerie Fouchi, that was getting the backing from every party instrument, and also on top of that was getting getting support from AIPAC subsidiaries too. And yeah, I do think a lot of it pains me to say this, but I think a lot of leftists would vote for Tucker Carlson over Gavin Newsom. Yes. I think a lot of normies would vote for Tucker Carlson over Gavin Newsom. 100%. Yeah, I'm fearful of this reality.
Period. You can't make Tucker Carlson be the convincing anti-Israel guy.
This takes time. Democrats are already losing this battle.
Every Thomas Massey, and there's a whole army of them coming at some point because everyone can see what's going on. And you can shut down X, and you can shut down the internet. You can be like Great Britain and arrest people who protest Israel, but attitudes are not going to revert to what they were 5 years ago. Sorry. And they know this. So this is their last chance.
He's right, by the way. He is completely right on this. The real issue here is that Tucker is the one saying it. Why aren't Democrats the ones saying it? Why are Democrats running away from other Democrat-adjacent content creators who are saying it? People like myself. Think. You need to lean into this. This is where the base is, across the fucking board. You're never going to win the evangelical right that has unlimited appetite for death and destruction over there and love Israel, okay? If you listen to AIPAC lobbyists, if you listen to pro-Israel lobbyists and people with a tremendous amount of influence capabilities that are constantly making phone calls anytime a Democrat says anything about Israel, so then you have to like manage your rhetoric around this issue in a way that doesn't offend these fucking psychos, you are giving ground to a right-wing populist, just like Donald Trump did initially. This was the pre-October 7 election, right? Donald Trump won, I mean, where Democrats were so predisposed with a pro-corporate sentiment that was supposed to be like responsible governance that Donald Trump was able to come out and look like a more moderate figure than he actually was on a lot of issues, on issues that Americans care about, right? Like, I'm not going to touch Medicare. I'm not going to touch Social Security. I'm not going to do wars. These were all moderate positions from a Republican that most Republicans had never heard of. That's why he was able to win so much favor with like normies and low propensity voters. You can't defeat that with wishy-washy, middle of the ground bullshit, middle of the road bullshit. You only allow your opposition to lie about their positions if you are not making a convincing argument. If you're not even interested in making a convincing argument, if you're not even interested in hearing why they are popular. This is why Kamala Harris lost. And this is precisely why, if Tucker Carlson actually runs for office, he will come out of that primary the victor, 100%, and he will defeat the overwhelming majority of Democrats right now as they stand. And yes, that even includes like, you know, left flank Democrats as well, unless they dramatically change their the way that they communicate about these issues. Specifically, you know, be unshakable, be more convincing in your advocacy. Don't do this like wishy-washy shit.
What's so amazing is that Israel, which at least is acting in what it perceives to be its own national interest, is joined by its shills in the United States, of course. But really, its only other ally in this is the American news media, whose job it is to tell you the truth and inform you as to what's happening, to tell you, hey, wake up. The world could be changing, and it's going to affect you and your family. That's their job. And instead, they've been lulling you to sleep with the same variety of transparent lies and propaganda.
Yeah. Who's fighting harder against this war, Tucker Carlson or Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries? Not close, right? It's embarrassing to have Democratic leaders outflanked on the anti-war position by some on the right. Democratic leaders are pathetic, controlled opposition, useless, right? And there's truth to what Cenk is saying, but there's also truth to what Edgar Mentum is saying. So are you going to ever mention that there's absolutely no anti-war constituency whatsoever among the MAGA right? Or are we just going to play dolls with influencers and TV hosts forever? To which I responded with, I think about this a lot. Tucker's platform is large, and I always assumed it was MAGA. But 85% of MAGA loves the Iran war. Does this mean that independents and Dems are watching Tucker now? Is MAGA still watching him and just simply disagreeing? Matthew Hasan says, I know lots of normies who watch Tucker now for his anti-war, anti-Israel content, which is true. I see it too. I'll get on a plane sometimes, and the motherfucker sitting next to me is watching Tucker Carlson. Now, of course, I'm sitting in business, so maybe that's the reason, but it's still crazy that I'm just seeing it out in the fucking wild, right? I don't see Tucker as a realistic populist candidate for the right in 2028, just neocons and losers and probably fucked after Trump. Tucker Carlson is the only path for salvation for the right. Maybe J.D. Vance might have a shot at it, but much more limited shot at it. Tucker Carlson is the true spiritual successor of the MAGA movement. He is the only one who is capable of carrying the base. I fucking said that for the last decade almost, okay? I've been saying that nonstop. I've been warning about Tucker Carlson since 2016. He is one of the most dangerous right-wing figures in this country. J.D. Vance is awfully quiet lately. That's because he has ambitions for 2028, and he knows to shut the fuck up right now. Because if he was held responsible for what's going on right now, there's a horrifying reality for his prospects, for his 2028 prospects.
Again Friday and are now hovering around $100 a barrel. Now, that's led to a spike in prices at the pump for consumers. As you may have seen, the national average for a gallon of regular gas is now $3.67, while diesel, which is used for trucking goods, is near $5.
If Tucker won the presidency, do you think he would actually decouple at least distance from Israel? I don't know what he would do, man. I don't know. I think he's a grifter at the end of the day, so I don't know. But the way he communicates on these issues is like, do you want to live in a country that is an objectively white supremacist fascist state that's purging 65 million people that Tucker calls migrants, you know, that happen to have a Latino background, but also simultaneously we have maybe decoupled from Israel? I think that's a really dangerous gamble because a lot of people will take that.
A gallon. Charlie D'Agata is in Tel Aviv with the details on a new U.S. troop escalation in the region. Charlie, good morning.
Good morning to you. Got us right in the middle of a dust storm here. So going into week 3 of this war, and Pentagon sources tell CBS News the U.S. is preparing to send thousands more troops, including a Marine Expeditionary Unit consisting of around 2,500 Marines, as President Trump claims to have launched one of the biggest raids yet on Iran.
The president posted video on his Truth Social site claiming to show the bombardment of Karg Island, a critical terminal for 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. But he said only military facilities had been struck, not the island's energy infrastructure. Trump wrote, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. But Iran's stranglehold on that key waterway has only tightened, with more than 16 tankers and other vessels struck, sending global oil prices and other commodities soaring. Trump suggested once again that U.S. Navy ships could soon begin escorting tankers, but couldn't say when the war would end.
I can't judge the idea, but what good does it do? It'll be as long as it's necessary. They've been decimated. Their country's in bad shape. The whole thing is collapsing.
The Iranian capital was hit overnight in a new wave of airstrikes. But the intense bombing hasn't stopped the Iranian regime publicly signaling its defiance. President Masoud Pezeshkian and several high-ranking officials taking part in open-air rallies in Tehran. Iranian missiles and drones and their proxies continue targeting American facilities. The U.S. Embassy in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad, hit in a missile attack. and 2 days after 6 service members died when their refueling aircraft crashed in Iraq. U.S. officials say 5 Air Force refueling planes had been struck and damaged on the ground at an air base in Saudi Arabia.
Iran has threatened to turn U.S.-linked oil facilities to a pile of ashes as this war widens and threatens to trigger a global oil crisis. Adriana?
Charlie, thank you so much.
Well, we can get all the very latest on this now with our military analyst, Sean Bell. Good morning.
Morning, Sam.
Sean, good to have you in the studio as always. Carg Island, smaller than Gibraltar, hugely significant though. Just explain why.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? For many people have never even heard of it. It's about 5 miles long, about 2.5 miles wide. It's right at the northern edge of the Persian Gulf. It's actually about 300 miles, I think, away from the Straits of Hormuz. But it is where 90% of Iran's oil flows out of, and therefore, you know, for the exports anyway, 7 million barrels a day. They can cope with up to 10 of these massive super tankers at any one time. So President Trump's claimed he's obliterated all the military targets on there. That includes airfields, air traffic control towers. There's some helipads, and there's also some naval personnel there. What's interesting that when he says he's obliterated, he's talked about the airfields. I've seen.
Does chat know how a refueling plane works? I'm surprised they don't crash more on their own. Jesus fucking Christ, it looks so sketch, brother. It's entirely designed to do that sketch thing. I know. When I first found out about the existence of refueling planes, I was also confused. Okay, it's insane. It is truly insane, but it is the purpose of the plane is to do that thing that you consider sketch. So you know you'd probably be seeing a lot more crashes if it was happening frequently, because they're used quite frequently, especially in this campaign, because Iran has been bombing American military bases in the region, which offends some of my Gulf fans. But that's part of the reason why Iran is bombing the military bases, so that America can't use those military bases to launch aerial campaigns.
Some of the video of the strikes.
Yeah, what's your assessment?
Well, the trouble is with airfields is they're very, very big bits of concrete, and they've certainly plugged holes into each of the runways. But we used to do that in the Cold War, and it doesn't take much to fill a tipper up with gravel, pour it on, put a layer of tarmac on the top of it, and off you go again.
Yeah, the Boeing KC-135 Stratotanker fleet is over 65 years old, with the first aircraft delivered to the U.S. Air Force in June 1957. While production ran from 55 to 65, the aircraft remains in active service, with many airframes expected until 2030, making them some of the oldest military planes in operation. Yes. The new version, the Boeing has made new Stratotankers as well. I forget what they're called, but the KC-135 Stratotanker is very, very old. KC-46, yes, thank you. The KC-46 is a newer version, but the American military still very much uses the old ones.
So it's not a permanent
potholes, effectively.
Well, yeah, they're big.
I can't believe it's so old, brother. That's planes, baby. That's planes. That's how it works. A lot of the planes that are still being used are old as fuck. That's just how planes work.
Are effectively potholes. I think the interesting bit.
Especially from an era when, you know, these things were built to last. Maybe F-35s are a different reality. I don't know. We haven't seen them utilized over an extended period of time. But there was a point in time when planes were built, when American military equipment was still built for utility. American military equipment was built for utility. It was built to last. It wasn't built for expansive defense contracts. We live in a very different reality now. The reality that we live in is constant corner cutting, both on the commercial side and even on the defense side, right? Where production is not designed with maximum efficiency in mind, but more so movable parts that are expensive with some level of planned obsolescence, you know?
About the story, though, is that President Trump didn't target the oil and made a really big thing about that. And I think if you look more widely, a lot of that oil goes to China. And therefore, if he was to take that out, you might risk the ire of China and the whole thing starts to expand even further.
Yeah.
So, a tailored strike. Interesting to see what impact it has.
There's been a lot of talk about the U.S. and whether or not it would be willing.
Right to repair gone. There is one right to repair country, Iran. Iran loves doing right to repair on their old gear that they got back when they were an American puppet state. Half of their fucking military equipment, half of their like Air Force, all of their Air Force is like either shitty Russian equipment that they got, like the trainer planes, the trainer fighter jets, or, you know, shit that they had, like the F-4s and things that they had from back in the day when they had, when they were an American puppet state.
The consensus seems to be not to send boots, have boots on the ground. Where does this plan of sending 5,000 Marines sit within that as a wider context?
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's been played out. And let's be quite clear, these US Marines are probably a couple of weeks away. So we're not talking about any time soon. And we've just finished the first 2 weeks of the war. So 2 weeks is a long time in terms of this Iran. It might therefore be nothing more than a threat by President Trump, just to show that he is willing to consider boots on the ground. I think what's been fascinating is that the war general has been almost migrated into two separate wars. There's the military parts of it, American superpower dominating everything on the ground. There's no question, Iran can't win that. But it's also this sort of ideological war that's going on. And unless America is prepared to put boots on the ground, it's pretty clear air power alone will not change Iran's intent to build a nuclear weapon and will not stop its intent to keep attacking American forces as they're there. So I do think that, Iran is left with 70,000 Shahed drones, probably. Still got a leadership in place. It may not be the original leadership, but sounds even more hardline. Mushtaba sounds like sort of version 2.0, but even more vengeful. And then you've got proxies still active and the Straits of Hormuz. And therefore, I suspect the Marines are, how do you solve that Straits of Hormuz problem?
It seems to be an impossible conundrum, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the longer that Iran after that Straits of Hormuz, the more it can do this whenever it likes. And I was chatting to some military colleagues earlier in the week, and they said if you really want to solve that, you've actually got to invade Iran, at least, and take a section of ground all the way around the Straits and actually guarantee its security. Now, whether or not President Trump has got the appetite for that, because the one thing against President Trump in all of this...
Guys, there's another way, okay? There's another way. It's called diplomacy. It's called leaning into and conceding to Iranian demands. What happened? Dude, I don't understand. Everyone was talking about, American dicks. They're hard. They're so hard right now. B-2 bombers, they're hungry. Feed me the three gorgeous damn, they used to say. What fucking happened? Now you got Israel running critically low on interceptors. What the fuck happened? Where are they at now? Where's the Asmin Goy squad? Coming in here being like, nah, dog, America's got it. Don't fucking worry about it, King. America's got it, bro. Trust.
This is time. It's the one factor. Iran has got lots of time. Trump has not. He's going to run out of air defense weapons. He's got the midterm elections coming up. Every day that goes by, we're getting more casualties. And the KC-135, that tanker, tragically lost their life, which is
fake news. Fake news, right?
Close to my heart, because obviously it's air crew. When I flew around, we had an ejection seat, so if you get shot down, you can still get out. These boys and girls do not have that luxury. So the longer these goes on, the more likely it is that we're going to see more casualties and repatriation ceremonies back to America.
And just finally, the decision by the US to lift the sanctions on Russian oil. I mean, the Europeans are going to be wringing their hands over that.
I think this is profound, absolutely profound, because we've seen for the last few months, in fact, best part of a year, Europe desperately trying to keep President Trump involved to support Ukraine, to support NATO. And one of the strategies is that Europe hasn't wanted to get involved militarily with Ukraine, but economically it's trying to drive Russia's economy to the ground so it can't afford to prosecute the war. Apparently it's about £1 billion a day. Well, all of a sudden now, in a heartbeat, Trump, without consulting the European colleagues, has gone, yeah.
Did Bibi die? No, man. Guys, please. Like, not that I know of. There is not any real evidence that Benjamin Netanyahu has died, okay? It's just like AI shit. People are going crazy. It's not even AI shit. People are suspecting it's AI. Iran's influential Speaker of Parliament, Ghalibaf, addresses the Telegeneral Hegzeth on X after announcing successful strikes on several U.S. military targets, asking U.S. Secretary of War Hegzeth, so what do you think, Telegeneral Hegzeth? Obviously, the best strategy now is to throw the infantry into the meat grinder. They're sending poor boys to fix what generals broke. Go die for Israel. U.S. is reportedly sending up to 5,000 Marines to the region, according to a Wall Street Journal report. Speaker of the Islamic Republic of Iran's parliament says target status, radars, batteries, refueling tankers, military bases, drones, beast mode. What do you say? Please don't send military into Iran. Please don't do this. It is not a good idea. I know no one listens to me and thinks I am fucking in the pocket of the IRGC or whatever. This is not going to be good for America. It's not going to be good for like regular Iranian people either. It's not going to be good for anybody, but it's certainly not going to be good for the United States of America. Please. We're so goddamn arrogant, dude. We are so fucking arrogant.
We can buy Russian oil again. It's worth about $150 million a day to Russia. That will be converted into weapons, to bombs, to missiles, to fire into Ukraine, to recruit more soldiers. Not a word of consultation with European colleagues. And I think this simply re-emphasises that President Trump is only focused on President Trump and the US. Yeah. And European leaders will be wondering, what the hell are they going to do about it?
We actually got a message, or a message was sent out by Donald Trump on his social media platform, Truth Social. But it says many countries, especially...
God, I fucking hate Popular Front so much. This Jake Hanrahan and the Popular Front are 1,000,000% State Department stooges, okay? I'm glad that people will hopefully recognize that eventually. Don't ever send me this bullshit ever again, okay? Cuba clashes erupted overnight in Ciego de Avila, central Cuba. Protests set fire to local headquarters of the Communist Party as demonstrations against the government sparked by ongoing nationwide blackouts entered their second week. There are also reports that a man was shot by pro-government supporters colectivos, which are armed civilian groups that operate in support of the authorities and are often used to intimidate or confront protesters. Come on, dude. I mean, we're not even done with the Iran situation, and there's already motherfuckers being like, well, you know another country that's actually really upset at their government and not upset at the United States of America for starving it is Cuba. Remember Cuba? Is Cuba introducing new reforms true? From what I understand, Cuba is willing to play ball with the American government, and they'll do anything they can to not fucking starve their population. So they might implement reforms internally in the economy in an effort to open up the economy to the best of their ability. And if that actually avoids complete chaos, great. I don't mind it at all. It's not up to me.
Especially those who are affected by Iran's attempted closure of the Hormuz Strait will be sending warships in conjunction with the United States of America.
Wait, Jake Hanrahan has a psyop? I fucking hate that piece of shit. 100%. 100%. You'll see. Eventually you'll see. Has he talked about Iran at all? Maybe he has. I don't know. I mean, this right here is 100%. I mean, you're a government mouthpiece, brother. He hates your ass too, to be fair. Yeah, fuck that guy. I know he does. He's a massive anarchist. I mean, sure. Exactly.
To keep the strait open and safe. We've already destroyed 100% of Iran's military capability, but it's easy for them to send a drone.
I don't think Robert Evans hates me. We do have some disagreements, though. Reuters confirmed the Cuba story? Of course, dude. Of course. The whole point of this is literally economic strangulation in order to fucking piss off the people, activate reactionary forces in the country, and then make it seem like there is a tremendous amount of discontent against the government. Okay, piss off the people, frustrate them enough, strangle them enough, and some of them will actually fucking do some damage. Use that symbolistic damage to say, oh, we have to do regime change in Cuba. Hello, we just walked through this with Iran. We're still in this with Iran. Of course Reuters is going to fucking confirm it. It works in line with American State Department interests in Cuba.
Drone or two, drop a mine or deliver a close-range missile somewhere along or in this waterway, no matter how badly defeated they are. Hopefully China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK and others that are affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area so that the Hormuz Strait will no longer be a threat by a nation that has been totally decapitated. In the meantime, the United States will be bombing.
Yeah, that was beautiful. The China mention there is incredible. Saying hopefully China will militarily help us open the Strait of Hormuz. Brother, give up on that. Just give up at that point, dude. What are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Come on, China, please. What if I ask nicely? You love trade, don't you?
The hell out of the shoreline and continually shooting Iranian boats and ships out of the water. One way or the other, we will soon get the Hormuz Strait open, safe and free. Signed President Donald J. Trump, and that his latest message just a few minutes ago on Truth Social.
Jeffrey, we have just heard from the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei. His statement was the first since he was elected by the Assembly of Experts. It was read on Iranian television. He called for unity among Iranians, and he said the martyrs will be avenged. And he also called on all U.S. bases in the Persian Gulf to be closed immediately, or they will continue to be attacked. He said the Strait...
For the record, Popular Front, the magazine, does regime propaganda in a much better way than like all these other fucking, CNN style outlets do. Okay. The same interest still remains. Okay. It's a magazine. It's edgy. It's cool. It's hip. They go to the front lines. They might even at times align themselves with like anti-American government forces. Okay. But when push comes to shove, they'll spit out the same fucking regime change bullshit. The same exact, oh, well, these guys are demanding freedom. We must liberate them. Regime change bullshit in the exact same intensity the Vice News does.
Of Hormuz, that vital sea route, will remain closed. Seems like he's taking a very hard line, not in the mood for any kind of compromise or negotiation. Given that, where do you see this heading?
Well, what kind of negotiation? Iran tried to negotiate twice. Both times it was bombed.
This is 1.8 million America, 1.8 million views in one day. My goat Jeffrey is popping.
By Israel and the United States. Iran is under a absolutely brutal attack. It's under carpet bombing. The U.S. and Israel are destroying infrastructure. They murdered this man's father and the leaders of the Iranian government. They are killing thousands of people. So exactly what is to be negotiated? This is a brutal war of aggression.
Yeah, Hanrahan does have a lot of default liberal interventionist takes, but sometimes covers interesting topics. He's where I originally learned about order and nine angles. Yeah, that's exactly how nefarious propaganda, the most dangerous type of propaganda, works. Like Robert Evans is my other things understander. I don't think he hates you, bro. Yeah, I mean Robert Evans and I also have disagreements on certain issues. I mean he's also had some takes that I find strange. And confusing or in line with like American interests at times. But Jake Hanrahan is like the classic. Jake Hanrahan absolutely is the classic like, oh, I'm super fucking edgy. I'm an anarchist. I'm edgy. I have the morally consistent position. Yeah, Robert also has some Fed takes every now and then. But yeah, State Department anarchists. And then we find out when the information is declassified, I'm talking about Jake Hanrahan, when the information is declassified 20 fucking years later, and you're like, wow, I can't believe it. Gloria Steinem? No way. I can't believe it. Jake Hanrahan was getting paid by, I don't know, the National Department of Spreading Democracy and Public Service branched under the fucking State Department by way of numerous subsidiaries and private donors that make it seem as though this is like a totally legitimate thing that they're achieving.
By Israel and the United States, and Iran is responding. And it's not surprising that they are responding. They're under threat of conquest, basically. That was what Trump said, that he would pick the new leader, that Israel and the United States would run Iran. Well, the Iranian people have a different view, clearly. They're showing up by the millions to say that they don't want to be run by the United States and Israel.
Right, and President Trump is also claiming that...
Hasan is also a Fed, by the way. Yeah. How much does, Israel yell at the likes of Jake Hanrahan? I think that's a pretty clear-cut way of figuring out if someone's a fucking federal agent or not, don't you think?
The United States has won this war. That's what he says. Yet we see the missile attacks continue by Iran, by Israel, by the United States. I mean, do you envision any scenario in which the United States can declare victory when we don't even know what its objective is?
Well, yes, I see a scenario where they can declare victory. Trump does so.
Yeah, I'm funded by you, the people, for you, the people. That's it. The Piker Broadcasting Service is funded by you, the people, for you, the people. No National Endowment of Democracy, no State Department funding, none of that shit, okay? And it's all transparent. It's above board. You know exactly what it is, okay? Piker Broadcasting Service, for you, funded by you, the people, for you, the people, for tomorrow's news today.
He says things for the immediate moment or for show or because he believes them. We're never absolutely sure which it is. But is there a way to real victory by the United States? No, this is a disaster for the United States. It is a disaster for the whole world. The U.S. and Israel have thrown the entire world into turmoil.
Stabby squirrel.
Perhaps into World War III. This was a brazen, violent, ill thought out, I mean, to say the least, move by these two countries. And now we're all suffering the consequences of this.
You say we could be in World War III. There are already more than a dozen countries involved in this conflict, most of them in the Persian Gulf. Do you see it expand to other parts of the world as well?
Well, the United States is at war in many places. It is at war in the Western Hemisphere. It invaded Venezuela. It's talking openly about invading Cuba, which it's currently blockading. Trump just met with Latin American leaders and talked about other military operations in the Western Hemisphere. Trump has threatened to invade Greenland. The United States is still heavily engaged in war with Russia in Ukraine. We have war spreading through the Middle East. Israel is invading more countries. We have the war of Pakistan and Afghanistan taking place. We don't know, but it could be that when we look back even in weeks or months, we say, yes, World War III has started. The United States is so reckless, so irresponsible, and led by such a delusional president right now that I'm sorry to say that anything is possible.
There are more than 1,500 Iranians who've been killed in this conflict so far, but we're also facing another crisis, that is an energy crisis. The world is facing an energy crisis right now. Oil prices are spiking. Energy experts say the full impact of this is yet to come, and we've just heard from the International Energy Agency, which says that this is the worst energy supply disruption in history. How will this affect and impact the global economy?
The way it's going, this year will be an economic catastrophe if this continues, and it looks like it will.
I need people to understand something really important here. The very same forces that really wanted Donald Trump to win, that also made sure that, like, the Democratic Party side was also pliant to the necessities or the needs of Israel, Biden and Kamala Harris, are currently spending tens of millions of fucking dollars trying to do their very best to make sure that anti-Israel candidates are not fucking elected into office. Khaled Abu Ghazalig in Illinois 9 and virtually every other DSA-endorsed candidate all around the country are currently having to wage war against tens of millions of dollars and coming from a foreign government, okay? Eventually, people are going to realize, like, we don't want this. Democrats have to get ahead of that, okay? Right now, they're leaning into it. Democrats in the party in positions of power, okay, are leaning into this. They're leaning into it because they also don't want the outsider left flank candidates to take their positions of power. They think this PAC money is fine for the time being. Okay? What they fail to realize is, one, it's totally not fine. And two, this is the reason why we have Donald Trump in power already. It's this uncontrollable faucet of pro-Israel money and the whipping mechanism that they've created for Democrats in positions of power, Republicans in positions of power that make American foreign policy Israel first, that rip away the standards of war, the conduct that we have designed to make sure that we have at least some stability while we dominate the world because we wrote those rules. Now Israel is basically saying, no, fuck those rules. You can't ever oppose us at the ICC. America says, okay, we'll sanction the ICC. You can't ever oppose us at the ICJ, the International Court of Justice. America says, okay, we'll destroy the International Court of Justice. This can't continue. You can't go, you can't continue existing like this, okay? Ripping apart the standards of warfare, the rules of law, international human rights in this flagrant of a manner at the behest of a foreign nation state is going to have unimaginable consequences.
Continue. We know that there are massive disruptions of oil supply. That's the point that the International Energy Agency just made. We know that only selective tankers are passing through the Strait of Hormuz.
Why do leftist commentators often imply that only great powers have agency, for example, by describing any revanchist invasion as a proxy war? Because it is. It's true. Like, nationalistic ambitions aside, which I think Putin has plenty of, it still is a proxy war because it cuts away at American dominance in the region. There's a difference why Belarus is not, whereas Ukraine is. You're a great power. You have security needs and making sure that you have control over your own backyard. That's just how the world works. I don't agree with it either. I want every country to have sovereignty. I want every nation to have dignity, Ukraine included. And Vladimir Putin does have a ultra-nationalist goal here for sure. Some mystical, spiritual bullshit, right? Rebuilding the might of the Russian Empire or the might that the USSR had, right? This is certainly true. There's truth to it. But at the end of the day, the way this works is Ukrainian sovereignty is not really a part of the equation. Bro, stop calling Putin nationalist. It's insane propaganda. You've completely lost the plot. I mean, there's no war in Ukraine to be anything but a proxy war, right? At this point, I mean, it's the entire Western forces backing Ukraine versus Russia, and you know some limited aid from DPRK, China, Iran. It's pretty wild to consider it as anything but a proxy at this point. What, you think Zelensky finds himself constantly riding for Israel, even if it's not beneficial for his interests? Because he just really loves Israel? You think that's the reason? You can take her out. No, I'm good. No, Zelensky knows what role he has to play. That's why he's playing the role of a proxy. Maybe Zelensky is a Frankist. Also, come on, man. You really going to say Vladimir Putin's not a nationalist? That's wild. Yeah, he doesn't have any nationalistic ambitions of like rebuilding Russia into a great power, really? Like, his actions can still be read as like striking a blow because he's crazy enough to fight back militarily again and deliver blows to the power that the Western superpowers have. But to say that there is no nationalistic ambition there in his irredentist actions against Ukraine, like Crimea is different, right? I've said this before. Crimea is a totally separate equation. And a lot of people have yelled at me for years over it, right? Like, it's great for Ukraine to want to maintain Crimea as a part of its territory, but like the people that were living there certainly were not as angry as like the people in the eastern territories that had to be fucking evacuated. But as far as like, what about the Donbass? I mean, Vladimir Putin was fine with using LPR and DPR as like autonomous territories to involve himself in the regular affairs of Ukrainian day-to-day existence and to make sure that like there isn't a significant amount of Western influence inside of Ukraine, at least according to what he has said. But I think that calculation has changed for him, don't you think? That was the whole point of the Minsk agreements.
Those that Iran is allowing to pass through for China and reportedly for India. But we know that there is a dramatic decline in availability of both natural gas and oil. And history has shown, especially in the 1970s, when there were two such oil supply disruptions, that the consequences for the world economy are extremely severe, sharp, and relatively rapid in arriving. So I think we're in for a very, very significant global crisis brought to you by Israel and the United States.
One strategy the Iranians are using, and some call it an asymmetric strategy, is to hit US Persian Gulf allies, many of which host United States bases, of course. Iran is hurting their economies by targeting their oil supplies and oil infrastructure. It's also targeting vital energy industries. What do you make of this strategy by Iran and its effectiveness?
Well, Iran has been hit repeatedly by the United States and Israel, actually for decades. We can go back to 1953 when the United States deposed a democratically elected prime minister and brought in a police state for several decades. We can go to the war that the United States supported against Iran by Iraq in the 1980s. We can go to a long list of assassinations by Mossad and the CIA in recent years. What Iran is saying is we are under attack, this is existential, and the countries in the Gulf.
How do you look at the way that Crimea came to be populated by Russians to begin with? Don't you think forced deportations during Stalin? Brother, that is that is so far outside of the scope of like Ukraine versus Russia. What the fuck are you talking about? Yes, I acknowledge the Russification that took place in Crimea, but what the fuck are we talking about? That has nothing to, like what? The Ukrainian ambition here is to repopulate Crimea with the Tatar population? Is that what you're trying to say? Or do you think it's more so for making sure that Russia doesn't have a strategic foothold into the fucking Black Sea where the Sevastopol base is? Because Ukrainians aren't fucking Crimean Tatars. Like, that's crazy.
By hosting the enemy of our country that is trying to destroy us are part of this war against us. Now, Iran has said, and the new supreme leader has said, that this is not a war against the neighbors, it is a war against the United States, which is trying to destroy Iran. And just listen to any of the words of Trump or Netanyahu. It's not hidden. It's very, very brazen. Who will run Iran? Trump or the Iranians? This is what's at stake. So from the Iranian position, this is existential. If the world stood up and told Mr. Trump, go home, you're not going to pick the supreme leader, who live within your borders, stop making so many wars in the region, it would help us to get past this very, very dire crisis.
To what extent did both the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as President Trump underestimate the Iranian military, not just its battlefield effectiveness, but also the strategies that it is using? It is taking on two countries, both nuclear-armed countries in this conflict, vastly superior military forces.
The United States, during my entire lifetime, which is getting on, has underestimated its adversaries from Vietnam onward. The United States repeatedly has declared victory in days or weeks, only to find that the wars extended years or decades, with the United States crawling back home afterwards, having failed in all of its stated objectives and having squandered trillions of dollars and cost hundreds of thousands of lives. So this is very common. Yes, they completely misjudged Iran. Totally. They said so, that this would be one decapitation strike, that people would come out on the streets against the regime, Trump would pick the new leader. This is the fantasy world of American leaders, especially Trump, who has the most delusional perspective of all. But we've had many presidents that are quite delusional in this regard. They are so drunk with military power that they completely misjudge the rest of the world.
As I mentioned, more than 1,500 Iranians have been killed in the conflict so far. That also includes 168 school children who were killed in perhaps the most egregious of those attacks when their school was attacked in the south of the country. Preliminary investigations show that the United States was responsible for killing those children. It was one of its missiles that landed on that school. We look at South Lebanon, where the Israelis have been bombing the Lebanese there. 200 children have been killed there. And I was wondering, to what extent or how great is the risk, the likelihood that we could see Israel do to Tehran and Iran what it has done in Gaza?
Yes, Israel has committed a genocide in Gaza because its doctrine is kill its adversaries, kill them in mass numbers, kill the civilians, kill the women, kill the children. This is the Israeli doctrine of war. They don't discriminate between civilians and military targets. They leveled Gaza. They destroyed all its infrastructure. They destroyed all the schools, the clinics, the mosques, the hospitals, the housing, the water, the sanitation. And we don't know the full death toll, but it almost surely is in the hundreds of thousands if you take not only the bodies that have been collected, which come to around 80,000, and those under the rubble, but people who have died of exposure, of lack of safe water, of nutrition, lack of access to health care, and so forth. This is a brutal regime. I'm sorry to say it. It's terrible. It is a rogue, brutal regime. It's doing the same in Lebanon now, and it's doing the same with its carpet bombing of Tehran in Iran. And the world needs to stand up and stop accepting this as something even remotely normal or acceptable. Israel needs to go home and live within its own borders and head together again, because it's acting in a completely insane way. It needs to stop this. This is mass murder with U.S. complicity. So this is something that absolutely needs to stop.
I will remind people that the concentration camps were not the reason why the Allied forces fought against Nazi Germany. As a matter of fact, there was limited information readily available about the existence of concentration camps, and a lot of the intelligence that suggested that these camps existed, these death camps that existed, were not mass distributed to the population. They didn't know. Obviously, the German society understood what was going on, but broadly speaking, the Allied forces only found out after. It was actually the endless expansionist appetite from Nazi Germany to create living room, to create living space for the superior Aryan nation, from their estimation, that caused these forces to mount in opposition. Do with that information what you will if you want to analyze the current predicament that's taking place in front of us right now.
As you point out, the world needs to stand up and stop this, but when we look at the number of children, for instance, that have been killed and the fact that it's not receiving wide attention in the media, I mean, is there also a danger that the killing, the murder of children in this way, mass murder, as you point out, is being normalized?
It has been normalized because, at least in my country, in the United States, and in much of Europe, and thanks to CGTN for telling the news as it really is, our so-called legacy media or mainstream media do not report the truth. And we are subject to so much propaganda all the time, so much normalization. It's beyond imagining for me. I attended a UN Security Council meeting a week ago, the day, more than a week ago, the day that the bombing started. And what did all the Western countries do? They attacked Iran for being bombed. You know, this is propaganda. This is so-called narrative control. So yes, mass murder has been normalized. You're told, oh, if you say that Israel committed a genocide, oh, that's anti-Semitic. It's not only not anti-Semitic, it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It is the grim reality that needs to be understood so that it doesn't continue to happen.
President Trump is not discounting the option of a land invasion, and of course this recalls the Iraq invasion. But if we look at Iran, Iran is much bigger. It's a mountainous country. It will not be an easy country for anyone who invades on the ground. I mean, this could result in massive U.S. casualties, couldn't it?
I don't believe it. I think Trump is full of it in general, and I don't believe this can happen. You know, when the Iraq War happened, the American people were lied to relentlessly. We know it wasn't an error of judgment or doubt. It was direct lies, propaganda, that there were weapons of mass destruction that needed to be taken out. It was the excuse for war. At that time, the American people supported the war. Now, the American people are completely against what Donald Trump is doing. And that opposition will rise over time as their gas prices go up and as their incomes go down and as their jobs disappear and so on. So for Trump even to think about putting troops on the ground, the political explosion that would happen in the United States would be absolutely enormous. So he's just facing the fact that every miscalculation has come to pass because he's delusional.
Okay, so couple problems with this. Last guy who also thought America wouldn't allow Israel to behave like this, his name was Hasan Nasrallah, okay? And maybe even down to his final moments where he was like, oh, well, inevitably American restraint will kick in, right? Because Israel's like really fucking up the bag for them. So no, I want to say this seems utterly insane. There is some positive signs coming from the Israeli government that they're also leaning into a softer approach, because even Israel is now saying, well, you know, maybe we're just going to like cripple the Iranian government. Maybe we're going to weaken it. We're not going to like destabilize it, right? But I still do worry that Israel can get America to behave in whichever way they want to, no matter what the consequences are.
Because he has no strategy, because the whole group of them has no strategy. But I do not believe that there will be boots on the ground because, as you say, it would be a disaster, and it would start in the stark opposition of the American people.
When we look at the U.S. history of military assaults, invasions, assassinations, just in the past 25 years, it's left a trail of mass death and destruction. How would you describe the damage and destruction the U.S., what's been referred to as the Americans' forever wars?
Well, 30 years ago, Benjamin Netanyahu, when he became prime minister of Israel, with his American advisors, launched a project called Clean Break. The idea of Clean Break, everyone should understand, is to prevent permanently a state of Palestine alongside a state of Israel. So it's based on a criminality because it is international law that there needs to be a state of Palestine alongside a state of Israel. But the purpose of Clean Break was to say any government in the Middle East or North Africa or the Horn of Africa that supports the Palestinian cause and supports resistance, we're going to overthrow. And that is why there are so many wars, because greater Israel delusion of Netanyahu and the American complicity has led to wars in Libya, Sudan, Somalia, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and now Iran. That's part of the doctrine. And it's crazy. Instead of just having a Palestinian state alongside the state of Israel, according to international law, we have wars across that have claimed hundreds of thousands, millions, most likely, of lives and have gone on for 30 years now.
Professor Jeffrey Sachs, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
John Mearsheimer, thank you for joining us on Upfront.
My pleasure. Thank you.
It's goat talk, goat after goat.
Thank you for having me.
You recently argued that the Trump administration was, quote, dragged into this war by Israel and its lobby. What makes you believe Israel is the primary driver of this conflict rather than Washington?
Well, it's quite clear that Israel has been trying to drive the United States into a war with Iran for a long time. They've made their interests perfectly clear. This is true of Prime Minister Netanyahu, who has been a huge advocate of sucking the Americans into this war. And he was unable to do that until President Trump came along. And it's quite clear if you listen to President
Trump 1, not even Trump 2. Real ball knowers know. Real ball knowers know. Biden obviously also helped accelerate it a lot, but Trump 1 was insane. Abraham Accords, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, permanently recognizing the permanent annexation of Golan Heights. Holy, and then some to Israel. Totally rewriting decades of American foreign policy that many of these dipshits on the fucking Democratic Party side also wanted, but didn't actually lean into for good reason, because the consequences would have been devastating. The consequences being October fucking 7, okay? The consequences being this war that we're currently waging. Americans at least had enough decency and enough of a fucking analytical capability to comprehend that leaning into Israel's Greater Israel Project would have been devastating for every other fucking country in the region, devastating for America, devastating for everyone, right? Donald Trump is a fucking moron and was like, well, these guys gave me a lot of money. Fuck it, we ball. Straight up. I've said this for years at this point. Trump 1 was a major issue. I said it even initially with Biden. I said Biden should have reversed Trump's policies if he wanted to restore some kind of control over America's MENA policy. You had to fucking bring Israel to heel. Okay? It's not money, it's pedo cover. Yeah, I don't give a shit. Okay? Sure, he's a pedophile. Yes, they're all pedophiles. Fuck them. We're not talking about like speculation on like what the motivating principle is here. What matters is not what motivates them. What matters is the outcome. What matters is the actions.
President Trump, and you listen to his advisors speak, the Israeli influence and the influence of the lobby on President Trump was enormous. In fact, Secretary of State Rubio effectively said, as did Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, that we went to war because Israel dragged us into this war.
But critics say that this framing overstates Israel's influence over the United States while understating the United States' influence, which includes military dominance. That's one of the strategic interests, military dominance in the region, access to gas reserves and energy routes. The U.S. was also active in the Middle East long before the Israeli lobby became influential in U.S. politics. What do you say to that?
There's no question that the United States has been deeply interested in the Middle East for a long time, even before Israel was created as a state in 1948. And the principal reason for that was oil. But we're not going to war against Iran because of oil. We're not participating in the genocide against the Palestinians because of oil. This is being largely done as a result of Israel's influence in the United States, which is largely a function of the Israel lobby. The question you want to ask yourself is, if we had a national interest in supporting Israeli policies towards the Palestinians, towards Iran, towards Iraq, and so forth and so on, why would you need a lobby? Why would you need this lobby that by almost all accounts is by far the most powerful lobby in the history of the United States? Why do you need it if Israel is based?
By the way, this is why Mearsheimer is the GOAT and has a principled stance on this. And even though a lot of people who read him will be like, oh, he's doing Zog. But like, this is correct. This is also my argument as well. When I always tell you, like, if there was organized Jewry in their understanding of Israel, then Israel would not be spending billions of fucking dollars trying to break the minds of every young Jew in the West by consistently telling them like, oh, without Israel, you're going to be under fire. You're going to be killed. Israel's awesome. the Holocaust was terrifying, which it was, but also the Jews during the Holocaust were weak. Israel, on the other hand, is strong. Never again means never again for us. Not for anybody else, really, just for us. Never again means we have to be strong always. And by strong, I mean we have to genocide the people around us, right? No people are monolithic in general, right? But that's the whole point. If Americans were this like involved with Israel, if they, I mean, aside from the Christian evangelicals who are fucking crazy, and even they are not monolithic, but like you get what I'm saying, right? Like they also are constantly fucking brain breaking themselves. But if that was the case, then there would be no need for this fucking lobbying apparatus, and there would be no need for Zionist education in this country.
Basically doing our bidding. The fact is you have this incredibly powerful lobby because it is not in the American national interest to support Israel in...
I don't even care about the everyday Jewish American. Of course not, dude. What are you talking about? What? No. The everyday Jewish American is just a loyal soldier for Israel from their perspective. That's why they want them to not be in America. They want them to be in Israel. Okay? What the fuck do you think Birthright is? Again, another institution that is backed by hundreds of millions of dollars in donations from very wealthy donors, many of which are Christian evangelicals, by the way, ironically enough, that has the sole purpose of bringing young American Jews into Israel and getting them to fuck IDF soldiers so they stay in fucking Israel. That's the whole purpose of Birthright. It's the most psychotic operation of all time. That's literally it. And it's so funny because, like, most people that have participated in Birthright know it. Either they know it and they understand it and they like it, or they know it and understand it and don't like it. But everybody recognizes it as such. No one goes, oh, Birthright is actually totally just for us to see the beautiful land of Israel and get a better understanding. Like, no, everybody understands what the fucking purpose is. It's a fucking breeding program. It's a way to try to honeypot people into fucking staying in Israel. I've talked to many people that have done Birthright. We've looked at documentaries like Israelism that feature this as well. Like, it's pretty obvious. Like, it's not an accident that you are accompanied by, if you're a young Jewish boy, you get surrounded with IDF girls. If you're a young Jewish woman, you get surrounded by IDF men. It's on purpose.
All sorts of its endeavors. There's no question that sometimes
I hear it works especially well on podcast co-hosts. I mean, I don't know if that was a success or not, because he still fucking hated Israel so much that he had to come back to California and bring his Israeli wife to California with him. And now he has become one of the worst propagandists for Israel, which, to be fair, is already not an easy endeavor. He not only did a reverse Birthright, but became the fucking Michael Rappaport of YouTube.
have similar interests. Both the United States and Israel have a vested interest in preventing Iran from getting nuclear weapons. There's no question about that. But on all sorts of issues, like the Palestinian issue and like the question of attacking Iran, America's national interest is at odds with Israel's national interest. There's no way that Iran is a threat to the United States. It isn't. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, what is the relationship between the United States and Israel going to look like moving forward, especially with regard to ending this war? It's quite clear that we're not going to win this war, that we're not going to cause regime change. And if anything, we're going to push Iran down the road to acquiring a nuclear weapon. And we may even be worse off once this war is over than we are now. And this is going to enrage the Israelis, and the Israelis are going to want to go back at Iran, and the United States is not going to want to do this again. So one can posit a scenario where U.S.-Israeli relations are frayed in serious ways at the end of this conflict. I can't say that will happen for sure. Who knows for sure how this war will end? But the way things are going now, one can tell a story where the Israelis and the Americans end up at loggerheads at the end of the conflict.
It sounds like you're saying that you...
Inshallah. NPR wrote this about you in a China Maxing article. What? Yeah, Broad City by Ilana Glazer and Jacobs does an episode on Birthright and how messed up it is through comedic commentary and entertainment. I remember watching it at the time and being so shocked that, like, an American comedy show was piecing that shit up aggressively too. Why haven't NATO attacked Iran after Turkey got hit? Let's just say this about some of the weird targets that Iran has targeted that's not going along with the consistent pattern. Let's just say there are strange targets that Iran may or may not have targeted. Now, I won't say that about Turkey because Turkey does have an American base, but there is one that's always stood out for me. The Omani refinery that was drone striked. I just always found that to be very strange that Iran did that. As a matter of fact, I don't believe that Iran did that. I'll just say it out loud. Israel did that. That's what I think, okay? Speak plainly, big dog. I'm too stupid for subterfuge. I think that Iran is not striking randomly at places like Oman or expanding its targets to places like Turkey. I think there's another party involved here that wants to make it more difficult for Iran to continue pummeling their little country the size of New Jersey. I'm saying it's Israel, okay? Now, that might change. But I think you'll know if it's Iran doing it, they'll say it. They'll tell you why. People are like, why are you hitting civilian buildings, for example? Iran's been hitting civilian buildings in the Gulf. They say it out loud.
İranlı meslektaşımla bu son olaydan sonra da
Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, who wants to be like Arakshi but can't be like Arakshi. We also spoke with my Iranian counterpart after the latest incident. They, again, do not claim responsibility for the event and say they did not give any such order and have no connection with such an attack. Of course, there's also technical data available. We are frankly discussing with them the contradiction between their statements and the reality.
Görüştük, haberleştik. Yine kendileri bu olayı sahiplenmiyorlar. Böyle bir konunun talimatını vermediklerini, böyle bir saldırıyla ilişkilerinin olmadıklarını söylüyorlar. Tabii elde de teknik veriler var, başka konular var. Biz bu arasındaki beyan ve gerçeklik arasındaki zıtlığı açıkçası kendileriyle konuşuyoruz. Farklı düzeylerde, askeri düzeyde, bizim düzeyimizde bunlar şu anda konuşuluyor. İranlı meslektaşımla
All I'm saying is they've been calm as a fucking cucumber in the process. If Iran was just like, if Iran, a country with a border to Turkey, was randomly just like lobbing missiles at Turkey, I feel like Turkey would not be as chill about it. And no, these aren't drones either. The ones that hit Turkey weren't drones. The ones that hit Oman were drones. The ones that hit Turkey were not drones. They were munitions, ballistic missiles. Hasan, they did hit their own fucking civilian plane before, so don't put too much faith in their competence with these things. True. This is also true. Also, the mosaic structure implies that there are uncontrollable elements as well. So there's a range of different options here of like what could have taken place. You could have a rogue missile launcher, like a rogue commander just being like, fuck Turkey. You know what I mean? Because it's not directed by a centralized command structure as it stands currently, at least as far as we know. You could have, a Kurdish IRGC commander being like, yo, fuck Turkey. No, I'm kidding. They'd be the last guys to do that because they don't want Turkish military to come into the Kurdish region because the Kurdish region is the bordering region to Turkey. IRGC got Armenian commanders? Yes, they do actually. Yes, Iran is a very diverse country. There are Armenians, there are Azeri people in Iran, there are Turks in Iran, there are Kurds in Iran, and yes, all of them also are in the IRGC and the military as well. Motherfucker, if there's a Georgian general, Turkey is fucked. A Georgian general. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense for Iran at this stage in the conflict to like expand its targets for no fucking reason, especially to a country that has a standing military, who can even trigger Article 5 in NATO, which, you know, Turkey probably wouldn't, I don't think, but or the rest of the countries would not follow along, or maybe they would use that to pull the entirety of NATO into the conflict. You know what I mean? Like, it's way too chaotic for Iran to do such a thing. The Azerbaijan one might be just a warning, you know? But then again, I don't know. Would you advise people cancel future travel trips to the region, including Turkey? To Turkey? No. What do you mean? All the Iranians that are like escaping Iran fly out of Turkey. What part of Turkey are you flying to? I wouldn't suggest you fly to Adana, but I don't think any fucking tourists are going to Adana, right? Imagine. What's going on? I'm an American from Kentucky and I heard about Adonai. I would like to go to Adonai. I heard they got Cuba Day is what they call it. The Iranians call it Cuba Day. Turkish people call it Adonai Kebab. The only Americans that go to Adana because the Incirlik base is there, okay? Every American dreams of going to Beşiktaş, which is in Istanbul, so you're fine. Wait, they got Kubide in Adana? Yes, Kubide is the Persian version of Adana kebab or Antep kebab or Urfa kebab, okay? Those are the three kebab capitals. But when we say kebab, we mean like the minced meat that's like long. We also have köfte, okay, which also kind of is like the same as a kebab almost, but it's ground meat. Anyway, all right, whatever. What the fuck am I talking about? All right. IRGC said that it launched liquid and solid fuel missiles at Al Qasr Air Base in central Saudi Arabia, south of Riyadh. This is where they also hit the 5 American Strato tankers and I think disabled them. The IRGC said the base where the F-35 and F-16 fighter jets of the U.S. terrorist regime are armed and also hosts refueling tankers and AWACS aircraft. IRGC, the destruction and pinpoint drones of the IRGC Aerospace Force are identifying the hiding places of terrorist USA Army soldiers in the area. People in the area are requested to stay away from the hiding places of American soldiers. Smart IRGC video, they blur the surroundings as opposed to the Patriot missile in Israel from earlier. Yeah. Does Iran still have factories building the drones or are they bombed? Yes, they do. Their factories, the overwhelming majority of the production capabilities are underground. They do have buildings, like they have standing buildings above ground, and America blows those things up all the time. And I'm sure some of those like hold some of the materials and shit like that. But most of the facilities are underground. Well, not most of them, but there's a decent amount of facilities that are underground. You were right. They do sound like lawnmowers. Yeah, I mean, it's not a very complex machine. Does Iran still have Tomahawk factories? Yeah, famously, the Tomahawk that they used on the Mina school was the Iranian Tomahawk. Not complex. Let's see you make one, buddy. Brother, are you trying to get me in the crosshairs of the federal government? We already went through this last week when these motherfuckers were like, I was talking about how drone warfare has dramatically changed the way that like wars are, commercial availability of drones have dramatically changed the way that people conduct wars and have rendered suicide bombing totally unnecessary, a relic of the past. And famously, Canary Mission and all these other like pro-Israel ops were trying to make it seem like I was in favor of I was educating my audience on how to use drones to do suicide bombing missions or something. Fucking idiots.
The US is not going to achieve its goals in this war. What did you mean by that? And let's remind ourselves, what are the real objectives here? They keep changing. Is it nuclear rollback, regime change, regional dominance? Is it a coherent story of what the goals are?
Well, the story that the administration tells is not coherent because they bounce around from one rationale to another. But the main goal here, for sure, is regime change. Because if you don't get regime change, if you don't put a regime in place that is subservient to the United States and the Israelis, then you can't get Iran to give up its nuclear enrichment capability. You can't get Iran to give up its ballistic missiles, and you can't get Iran to stop supporting the Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah. To achieve those particular goals, you need a new regime that will cooperate with the United States and Israel. The administration thought that it could achieve that end, the end of regime change, by decapitating the regime early in the conflict. Well, it decapitated the regime and the regime remains intact. Now it's punishing the Iranian population, all sorts of targets across Iran. And you have to ask yourself whether or not you think this punishment campaign that's now in place is going to produce regime change. And the historical record tells us very clearly that a punishment campaign executed by air power alone has never succeeded in producing regime change. This tells you there is no reason to think that we're going to get regime change in this case with air power alone. We're going to have to put boots on the ground as we did in Iraq if we want regime change. And we're not going to put boots on the ground. So I don't see how we end up winning this war. And I don't see anybody who can tell a plausible story about how we get fair.
Damn. 3 members of the Iran's women's football team who sought asylum in Australia have decided to return to Iran, leaving only 3 of the 7 players who initially asked for protection to remain in Australia. 35 players all offered asylum, and now down to 3. They were like, damn, this place sucks. I miss Cuba Day.
Favorable regime change.
So airstrikes alone will not get the United...
No, they didn't, dude. They did not choose Iran over Australia. They chose Iran being bombed by Israel and America over Australia. There is a big difference, okay? What the fuck? They saw Drew Pavlov and they were like, I'm out. Nah, fuck this. A nation state that offers safe harbor to this parasite is not a nation state that I want to seek asylum in.
States there, and you're saying that a massive ground invasion is not possible, yet the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt declined to rule out the possibility of a military draft if the war escalates. You don't see that?
No, not at all. I mean, we did Afghanistan, we did Iraq.
Yes, the reality is there's a likelihood that they got pressured by their families who are still in Iran, even though there is, people will say, like, that's the reason why no one wanted to seek asylum in Australia.
They turned into forever wars. The American populace has no interest in another ground war. You want to remember that when President Trump started this war on February 28th, only 20% of Americans were in favor of the war. This is the first example in our history of where a president took the country into a war where he didn't have public opinion behind him. Iraq and Afghanistan, we're going to invade a country like Iran, which is as big as Western Europe and contains 93 million people, and occupy that country and effect regime change and do social engineering is, in my opinion, not going to happen.
I just want to talk about how President Donald Trump campaigned. He campaigned against forever wars, but recently claimed that the United States could fight wars, I quote, forever because American weapons supplies are virtually unlimited. Yet later, he suggested the Iran war was very complete, pretty much. Another direct quote. What do you make of these mixed signals? Is a forever war feasible?
Well, you want to remember that before the war started, General Kane, who President Trump handpicked to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, told him that the United States did not have a viable military option in Iran. This is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Yeah, not only did he say that, but because no one internally was listening, he went and he sang like a fucking bird to every goddamn mainstream news outlet that he could, consistently reiterating the position over and over again that we had no plan and we were fucked.
And he told him that if we fought a long war in Iran, we would be in serious trouble because we did not have the weapon stocks. We did not have enough sophisticated weapons of a defensive sort and of an offensive sort to wage a long war. So the argument that we have an endless supply of weapons that will allow us to wage a protracted war with Iran is in contradiction to what the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said. Furthermore, if you look at the Ukraine war, one of the reasons that we were so upset about the fact that we were pouring huge numbers of weapons into the Ukraine war is because we were running down our stocks to dangerous levels. To take this a step further, go to the Pacific. Almost everybody who's looked at what a China-U.S. war over Taiwan would look like understands that after 30 or so days, we would, in good part, run out of sophisticated munitions. So this idea that we have this inventory, this endless inventory of sophisticated weapons that we can use against Iran is simply wrong.
Final question to you. The war with Iran already has a global impact on the economy, the global economy, on diplomacy, on military. What does this mean for countries like Russia and China, non-Western powers? How do they respond to this political moment?
Well, I think if you take the Russians, this war is as a result of the oil crisis.
Why is the strait closed? Once we figure that out, should be fairly easy to reopen it. This is a brilliant strategy, Ryan. Thank you. I didn't even consider that. We should think about that. He's on to something. It's just sad because that question is not asked by any of the top minds in America, you know? Instead, Donald Trump has decided to ask China to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz with its military. That's awesome. Hey, China, I know this is like your one of your larger oil trading partners here, but could you like potentially wage war with them? Because Israel asked us to do so and we obliged. And now we realize that they do have hands. They didn't get the memo that it's illegal to strike back against American bases and American assets in the region or close the Strait of Hormuz. America hates this one simple trick. It's called closing the Strait of Hormuz. We hate it. We hate it a lot. China, come on. Come on. Let bygones be bygones. I know we've been waging a Cold War against you for like the last couple decades, but come on. Won't you do us a solid? Come on, Xi. Come on, Xi. You don't want to do us a solid?
The Russians are greatly improving their oil sales situation. They're selling more oil than ever.
The strait is open. The only problem is Iran is shooting. Yeah, the strait is open, guys. It's open. Come on, take a swim. It's open. It's totally good. It's just, you know, they're just lobbing missiles at anybody that crosses it that's not a Chinese flag tanker or an Iranian one, but
and they're selling that oil at a higher price. So the idea that we, the United States, are going to cripple the Russian economy with sanctions is an argument that basically goes out the window because of this war. If anything, the Russians have a vested interest in seeing this war continue and seeing oil prices rise. They benefit from that. And as far as the war in Ukraine is concerned, it's likely that this conflict will put significant limits on how much American weaponry can be sent to Ukraine, which again favors the Russians. So the Russians actually look like a winner in this conflict. And I think the same thing is true with the Chinese. This will increase Chinese influence in the Middle East. It will increase Chinese influence around the world. They will look like a stable and reasonable regime compared to the Trump administration. So I think for those two countries, the other two great powers in the system, this war is a good thing.
John Mearsheimer, thank you for joining us on Upfront.
My pleasure.
Dude, this is not real, okay? This image is very obviously AI generated. Like, is this the reason why people are saying Benjamin Netanyahu's dead? Like, there's so many people that have come into my chat. It's real. I was there. It's real. I was the missile. It's just like, I don't know if it's AI or if it's Photoshop. It's just not real, okay? Imagine if Netanyahu isn't dead, but he just barely survived the strike, but now he's R-worded. They'll patch him up with the organs and limbs and genetic material of obliterated IDF personnel, and he'll show up again. He'll seem a little off, but will be able to serve his purpose. Yeah, he comes back, John Fetterman. Comes back, brain looking like John Fetterman. Bro, we need this. Let us have this. Brother, that's not how this works, okay? Evil never dies. And no, the video that they released of him doesn't have 6 fingers. I don't know where the fuck people counted 6 fingers. I watched that video, okay? He did not have 6 fingers in that video. You're wrong. Also, Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't have the Trump-style hypnosis capabilities in his own base. Israeli society only allows Benjamin Netanyahu to be president because he is the most vicious, bloodthirsty guy who can hold a coalition together. Okay? So if he got John Fetterwopped all of a sudden and came out of the fucking rubble, a staunch anti-Zionist, they would just kill him. Israeli society would just kill him. Okay? They would be like, they'd kill him with hammers and then find the next fucking psychopath. Israeli opposition is led by what? Yair Lapid? Have you heard the guy talk about fucking Iran? Have you heard him talk about Lebanon? There is not a single person that has any real viability in the Israeli Knesset that is from a functioning party that would be, against Israel's genocidal ambitions here. The only way that you can put an end to this is by, one, targeting the American unholy allegiance, and through domestic and international pressure, cut ties with Israel or force America to cut ties with Israel, or punish Israel so much with military deterrent that they think twice before they engage in any sort of destabilizing initiatives. That's it. The idiocracy's gotten so extreme that people don't know how to count to 5. Yeah, what the fuck? He's grown an extra finger? Why are they saying there's 5 fingers here? What are they talking about? It was a different picture? Yeah, it's bullshit. Y'all are crazy.
Thank you for having me.
I love that people are saying other hands sincerely, like they're